The New York Jets' young star running back Breece Hall is ready to break out onto the scene. But what is a breakout this year for Hall? And what can I expect and what can we expect out of the Iowa State product? Before we get into that, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's dive right into my projections here. All right, so Breece Hall wearing number 20 after basically fans told him that 35 was just a terrible decision, and I honestly side with the fans there. Like the number 20, but I'm going to like these stats a lot more. If you have him in your fantasy league, or honestly, if you're just a Jets fan, I think you're going to like what I came up with here. I don't think Breece Hall is going to break any records, and obviously not Eric Dickerson's insane rookie record, or really have any sort of play like Najee Harris last year. That usage was just ridiculous. So I don't expect that. However, I do expect a decent amount of usage for a guy that, is also on the same team as capable running back Michael Carter. And on top of that, Tevin Coleman and Ty Johnson. So let's talk about this. Breece Hall, you see there on the graphic, 235 total touches, 1,137 total yards, and 7 total touchdowns. How did I come up with this? Well, I had 210 carries for Breece Hall this season. I think it's pretty clear he's going to be the guy, the main back in the Jets backfield. They love him. That's why they drafted him. He has surpassed Michael Carter, even though Michael Carter had a really good year last year, and I was a little surprised that they made this pick. They have gone out and made it very clear early on that Breece Hall is not competing for a job. He has the number one job, and they look at him as the starter. So I think 210 carries makes a lot of sense. You're thinking over 200 for a guy that's going to be in his type of position. And I have 924 rushing yards. Yeah, a little short of 1,000. But I think when you look at this, this is a guy that is going to have a good year. It is a good offensive line. It's not the elite offensive line that you would love to see, but it's good, and it's a step in the right direction. They go out and they get Laken Tomlinson at left guard, a former Pro Bowler in his own right. You have Becton coming back, Elijah Vera Tucker going into year 2, McGovern at center, who's very solid against the run, and then on top of it, Fan at left tackle. It's a good offensive line with a good passing offense, potentially. I think there's a lot of weapons there that I think can open up really everything. And on top of that, Breece Hall's ability in the receiving game is going to be utilized in full force. But before we dive into that, I have 6 rushing touchdowns out of 7 total for Breece Hall. I think he's going to be utilized at the goal line big time. But I also could see him breaking with his incredible 4.3 speed. I could see him breaking away for 1 to 2, huge runs, maybe an 80-yard touchdown run. It would not surprise me. He gets a crease and he's gone, something like that. I do have a fumble projected. I think it's very fair. He's a rookie running back. Running backs typically, you'd expect him to fumble at least once. So I gave him a fumble, but I gave him 37 targets. He comes away with 25 receptions for 213 yards and a touchdown. I understand that seems a little low. I understand a lot of people may think that he's going to go crazy in the receiving game, but I would ask you to temper your expectations there, because I do think this is Michael Carter's backfield when it comes to being the reliable receiving back. When you looked at what he was able to do and the safety net and the security blanket he was able to provide for a young quarterback, a rookie quarterback in Zach Wilson, you can't just break away that chemistry. They had a chemistry there. So I think he's going to be utilized in that role still. He's still a very good running back, and he could be a starter if they really needed him to. He proved that last year. But I think Breece Hall offers more as a complete running back, and that is what led the Jets to making this decision, going out and drafting him in the first place, and then having, of course, the guts to go out and really just make him the starter day one without having seen him in an NFL game. So, with that said, we look at it, 1,137 yards on the season for Hall, 7 touchdowns, 235 yards. I have him at 166.2 fantasy points. I have not ranked everybody yet this year, so I guess I'll have to get back to you on where I have him as far as running back rankings. But I think top 20 is definitely not out of the question if you're a fantasy fan. I don't think that's out of the question at all. And I think he could have a better season when I'm projecting, because this is somebody where if the Jets come out and they're just, kicking the crap out of guys, in the trenches, and this offensive line is better than I expect, then Breece Hall should have no issue getting over 1,000 yards. And there's also the chance that maybe I'm giving Michael Carter too much credit and too much responsibility in my projections, and maybe they're just not going to utilize him anywhere near as much as I think. Maybe we could be looking at a 300 carry back, and I would never have seen that. Typically speaking, though, the way the modern era of the NFL works, if you don't have a Jonathan Taylor and you don't have a Derrick Henry, you're typically not going to have a back that takes 300 to 400 touches. It's just not going to be a thing. We're seeing more and more teams start to rely on having 2 and even 3 backs. So I would expect to see Michael Carter, I'd expect to see Tevin Coleman, and I would even expect to see Ty Johnson. On top of that, you'd also have some receiver movement. I do think they'll get guys going there, Elijah Moore. They'll probably try to use Garrett Wilson in fun ways as well. So I do think that because of that, there is also, that's being taken away from, essentially the plate that, Breece Hall is being fed. But coming away with this, my final takeaways, I think this is a good projection for Hall. I don't think it's too gaudy. I don't think it's too much pressure on the guy. Getting over 900 yards on 210 carries, I think, is something that he could very well do. Getting to 7 total touchdowns, having a responsibility in the passing game, I think is something to expect. Going over 200 receiving yards, I think, is good for a young running back. We're not getting carried away here. We're not putting him at 500, 600, anything like that. I think over 200 is a good start. I think this is somebody that could really build confidence, can give them confidence, and ultimately can completely take over the role if he really wanted to, and the Jets wanted to give him it. But I do think having Michael Carter and having him drafted by this regime gives me pause, just absolutely writing him out of the equation. If it was a previous regime, that'd be one thing. This is the same exact regime that drafted Michael Carter. I don't see him for that reason being tossed aside, just like I don't see Tevin Coleman being tossed aside with his familiarity with the offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur from his days with the Niners. So that's how I have it. The Jets get a very good return in year 1 out of Breece Hall in the first year. But we'll see how it works. Let me know what you guys think below about this projection and your projections on what you think Breece Hall will end up doing in the NFL his rookie season. If you drafted him, let me know that as well. That's going to do it for me. Please hit subscribe if this was enjoyable for you. Hit the like button also, really does help out the channel. And again, drop a comment. Let's chat about this. You guys take care, and I'll see you guys soon.